really try to get some revelation knowledge out of this thing, because I know they're going to go really deep when they go into the teacher's class, not realizing he was inviting me in there so I could learn how to teach. And so, you know, it was a little, I was a little nervous with the first few or that sort of thing, but I tell you, when the Lord really started explaining to me and sharing with me in prayer that, Yusef, these slips of paper that you're writing all the time, this stuff that you're saying out of your mouth, this is your gift. This is your call. This is what you're supposed to do. I want you to teach my people understanding. I want you to help them understand me and help them understand more about my word. Teach them me. And so, sure enough, through the teacher's class, over the years, it's been refined and refined and refined, talking about my gift. And Pastor Tears has been awesome, awesome man of God. I praise God in heaven for him. And a lot of dots started connecting. And so I realized those little slips of paper I was writing around, walking around writing and that sort of thing, that was stuff I was supposed to be imparting to other people. When I was talking out loud, you know, and that sort of thing in prayer or whatever, I'm supposed to be sharing that with other people like I'm doing right now. So it's kind of amazing, you know, how your purpose kind of finds you. You know, you don't really find it. Your calling finds you, you know. And that's what happened with me. And so that's the main thing I'm doing now. God has really been awesome in terms of really opening up the sciences to me, helping me understand creation, helping me understand evolution, helping me understand how all this stuff ties together, how it fits into a deeper knowledge of Him. And it's just been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I never have felt more fulfilled at any other point in my life than now, because a lot of dots that I had in undergraduate and graduate school, they're starting to connect. And I realize when you connect all the dots and you look at the picture, it's Jesus Christ. So it's just awesome. It's just it's awesome.
Well, this business of evolution and how these universities and colleges and high schools have woven this subject matter into so many things. Tell us about that, because this is something that it sounds, when you first hear it, it sounds good. It could be true.
That's right.
You see, it's a deception.
Right.
So, okay, go into this issue, because you have got a very special message about this.
Yes, ma'am. Basically, it's like what you're saying. You deal with evolution every day, but you don't realize it. When you turn on your television, when you watch these movies, when you see these things, a lot of things on the computer and that sort of thing, you are dealing with an evolutionary mindset. It's all rooted in evolutionary assumptions. Survival of the fittest, for example, corporate America, dog eat dog, that's evolution. Lo and behold, the evolutionary paradigm was taught through a gentleman back in the late 1800s. It got piped into Yale University, into their business school, and we'll probably get a chance to talk about that in just a few moments. But there's this history over the past 150 years or so. Scientists have made a turn from Christianity to secularism, to atheism, and to evolution. What they do is they go into this thing where they accept this evolutionary paradigm, largely for selfish reasons, unfortunately. And this is talking about the high-up guys who are teaching the young guys as they come in. And slowly, what began to happen is this darkness began to seep in and change the face of science. What a lot of people, I don't think, understand, ma'am, is that roughly about 200 years or so, maybe about 150, 200 years or so, science looked completely different than it does now. The scientific community, the scientific world was predominantly Christian. Not secular, not atheistic. Many of your pioneers in actual experimental science, our modern day science disciplines, came through Christian scientists. Guys like Faraday, Robert Boyle with the gas laws, Charles Babbage with computer science. These guys were believers. They were Christians. They actually believed in Jesus Christ. One gentleman was on his deathbed, famous scientist. A guy was telling them, "Are you afraid?" He said, my goodness sakes, no, man, I'm not afraid at all. I know in who I believe. I know my Redeemer. I know I'm going to meet Him. This is the way scientists used to talk. But lo and behold, what happened was a conspiracy began to develop roughly about 150 years ago or so. And, of course, most people trace it back specifically to Charles Darwin. It actually goes back a little bit further than that, but it goes back roughly to about 150 years ago. Now, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened throughout the thousands and thousands of years of history anyways with science, and I won't get into all that right now. But if you had to pinpoint where our modern, what we call postmodern, scientific thought comes from, it primarily comes from what we call the theory of evolution, and of course that was actually communicated or expressed most directly through the gentleman Charles Darwin. Darwin, of course, the guy Aldous Huxley, a lot of these guys were actually involved, tangled up in occultic activities.
Right.
This is something that I know they don't have it in the textbooks. Few students, especially in your high schools and this sort of thing, really hear about this. But when Darwin was on his journey on the Beagle to, try to figure out what was going on and how he was going to pull together this whole theory, he actually stopped over in South America. And when he was in South America, he got involved in some witchcraft ceremonies. Yeah. And lo and behold, shortly after that, I think they went on around and they went to the Galapagos Islands, and that's when this theory began to emerge. And it's very interesting that a lot of these guys, Darwin, Huxley, and not only them, but also some other guys who are pretty famous, like Marx and even Freud and all these guys, they were actually involved in spiritism and the occult, this sort of thing, and they were the very ones who accepted this evolutionary theory and promoted it. So you see this kind of shadowy thing going on where you see the enemy getting into the sciences through these guys. You also see how once Darwin put this thing together in On Origin of Species and some other things he did, lo and behold, Darwin was a tormented man after he came off that trip. He was a different man. There are letters, there are accounts where, Darwin was actually, he was really coming apart mentally. And something strange happened on this trip. A gentleman by the name of Vance Farrell wrote a book, The Evolution Handbook, and in that book he talks about how many people traced it to Darwin's unusual experiences in South America. And so you see this thing where, one, he's producing this volume of work that goes against creation, goes against the idea that Elohim, that the one true God created all things, that we actually evolved over years and years and years from animals into humans. And then you also see this thing where he's tormented. You see this thing where, he actually had problems, serious mental problems. He didn't really get much better until shortly before his death, right when it is alleged that he did accept Jesus Christ right before he died, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, you see this whole thing where he really had serious problems, mental problems and this sort of thing. But at any rate, by the time he released On the Origin of Species, and by the time he released that signature work, at that point there was a shift that was beginning to happen in the scientific community. Now, you got to understand something. He released that roughly in the early 1860s. Right around that same time period, true scientists were proving that what he wrote could not have possibly have happened. And this is something, once again, that's not taught in our schools. For example, in 1861, Louis Pasteur, where we get the term pasteurized, he was a bacteriologist. He was also supposed to be Christian. He came out with the experiments that prove you cannot get animate material from inanimate material. You cannot get life from something that is dead or that was non-living. Okay? If you know anything about where people go with the evolutionary theory, they say that, millions and millions and millions, possibly billions of years ago, there was a primordial soup floating around on Earth as it was cooling off and this sort of thing, and lo and behold, some things bumped together, and accidentally, you started getting some chemicals that begin to produce amino acids and this sort of thing. What Pasteur proves that can't happen. That's not possible. Also, it's incidental to note some scientists have claimed that they tried to redo the recipe, try to figure out what recipe of primordial soup could have made life on Earth, and thus millions and millions of years later produce animals and then produce humans and this sort of thing. Well, when they actually did this thing, what they found out was that they produced certain amino acids from running certain chemicals together, but they were all the type of amino acids that are not found in life and not found in humans. Okay, very important to know. But at any rate, Pasteur around 1861 found this thing out, that you can't get inanimate stuff animate material from inanimate stuff or chemicals